Welcome to part 2 of talking through the copy to tape process from the ZDLRA. In this section, I'm going to talk about the job templates and how to use them. Where we're starting is OEM, the ZDLRA, and I'm creating a new template at this point and kind of walking through what the parameters are. So I'm going to give it a name, which is, at this point, I'm going to do a full backup. And as I mentioned in part 1, the Media Manager library is where it's going to be going to. In this case, I've got a physical tape library, so it's going to be going to OSB, but it could be an external Media Manager. And the attribute set that I want to keep or I want to send it to, in this case, I am sending it to my attribute set that has one tape drive attached to it. The scope is going to be either the protection policy, so all the databases in the protection policy are going to follow the same template, or I can pick out a specific database to be sent to that template. Now for the backup type, what you'll notice is that the only choice on here is full, because in order to do a ongoing copy to tape process, you have to start with the full backup. The first thing that I'm going to do with this is create a full backup for my protection policy. I'm selecting full, the only choice. I get a choice of priority, which could affect how the queuing happens in the Media Manager when it comes from here. How many copies you want it to be sent over to the Media Manager. In some cases, you may want 2 copies to go over to tape. Or if you're using tags, you can only copy over or only send over backups that are using a specific tag. And then when you want to schedule this to happen, whether you want it to happen immediately or whether you want it to happen, let's say, on a weekly basis. So you may want to send a full over to tape every Sunday night and a daily incremental. So to talk through what this is going to do, when I execute the full copy to tape for the policy or for a backup, it's going to take the most recent virtual full backup that exists for each and every database that it is sending over to tape. The last time I did an incremental, it got virtualized into a full backup. That's the backup that is going to be sent over. And it's only sending over the backup. So it's sending over the data files associated with that full backup. At this point, it is not sending over archive logs that are associated with the backup. It is just sending over the data files associated with the last full backup that was executed. Now in the next step, I already scheduled a full backup to go to tape for one of the databases for CUST11. Now that I have a full backup scheduled, you can see that I have more choices on the backup type that I want to send. I get the choice of all, which is going to send over fulls, incrementals, and archive logs, or I can choose specific pieces. Full is going to do exactly what I said it would do in the last section, where it's going to take all the data files associated with the last incremental that got virtualized, that's my last full backup, and it's going to send that over to tape. If I choose incremental, what that's going to do is it's going to take the incremental backups that have occurred since the last full backup was sent over to tape, and it's going to send all those over. If I do a full backup to tape, let's say Saturday night, every night I'm doing a incremental backup that still becomes a virtual full. The next day, if I send over the incremental, it's going to just send over the incremental changes to the data files from the night before. Go back to Saturday night, do a full. If it's Wednesday and I haven't sent any incrementals over and I'm sending the incrementals over once a week in the middle of the week, it's going to send over each day's incremental. It's going to send over all the incrementals from Sunday night and Monday night and Tuesday night when I schedule that on Wednesday. So it's not going to be just the most current incrementals. It's going to be all the incrementals, and when I apply those, that's going to bring it back up to the current point in time. That's what happens if I choose incrementals. Now, archive logs, it's going to pick up all the archive logs that have been created either since the beginning of the last full backup or the last time the archive logs were sent if I have sent over archive logs since the last full backup. If I just do a full backup and now I just send over archive logs, what's going to happen is it will send over the archive logs that got created since the beginning of that incremental backup, the last incremental backup that became a virtual full, all the way up to the point in time when I schedule this job to occur. If I do incremental and archive logs, what it's going to do is it's going to include any incrementals that have been taken since I sent the full over to tape. And if this is the first time I've ran an incremental since I've ran a full, it's going to bring over any archive logs since the start of the full backup up until the current point in time. Now, if I've taken an incremental, so I'm doing a daily incremental and I've included archive logs, it's just going to include the archive logs since the beginning of the last incremental that got sent over until the current point in time. You have to really think through archive logs, what's being sent over. But that's what these parameters do. Is a full, it's just going to send over data files, a full virtual set. Incremental is going to send over an incremental copy of just the data files. Archive logs is going to send over all the archive logs since it last sent them over or the start of the last full that was sent over. So that's what's going to be sent over to tape. And it's important to understand how all this works because when you do your first full backup, it's not going to be a recoverable point because it doesn't include the archive logs. The archive logs are done separately and they may be across multiple backup sets depending on the point in time that you want to recover to. But that is the primary pieces of the copy to tape template that you need to understand to follow the process to schedule normal backups. So there is a way to schedule these, so I can schedule these later. So on an ongoing basis, I can schedule my full backups to happen, say, Sunday night. I can schedule my incremental backups and archive logs to occur every other night of the week except for Saturday night. And then the schedule will continue to run and send over all the information to tape. Now to mention, if you do want to do a long-term retention, let's say that every month you want to take a copy of your database, a recoverable copy, and send it over to tape and keep that on tape for 7 years, then what you're going to have to do is a keep backup. So there's a special type of database backup called keep, and you do a keep until, tell it how long to keep it, and it creates a whole new backup that doesn't get virtualized. So on the ZDLRA, it is going to be a full-size copy of your database that goes to the ZDLRA, doesn't get virtualized, just sits there on disk. And then at that point, you can create a template that is all and take and using the procedures, you can either copy it to tape or move it to tape. If you copy it to tape, then it's going to leave it on the ZDLRA and it's going to stay there as a recoverable copy if you want to use the tag to restore it. If you use the move, when it gets copied over to tape at the end of the process, it's actually going to remove it from the ZDLRA and it will no longer be there. The process that you would most likely use to keep long-term backups is to create a keep backup at the point in time that you want to send it to tape. That gets set on the ZDLRA, then use the move to tape process, and that will take that copy on the ZDLRA from disk, put it on tape, and remove it from the ZDLRA when that process completes. That is the main piece of the job templates and using the job templates to take backups from the ZDLRA and copy them to tape.